All right, we're live. I got Paul Stolyar here, or Pasha. What do you prefer to be called, mate?
Uh, um, you got me on the spot, mate. Pasha Paul doesn't really matter to me, my friend.
What do you,
So call me
what do your
Paul,
students call you?
Paulie. They call me
Paulie.
Paulie. Yeah,
All
someone
right,
called Pasha. Yeah, I got an international squad, so they make the choice.
all right, Paul. Tell us a little bit about yourself, when you started martial arts, and where you
Mm.
are now. That way, we'll all get to know you a little bit better, and then we'll see where it takes us.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, before we start, I said like I could never. I remember seeing you around, and I'm like, there's no way this guy makes 77 or 70, around 80. You're huge, man. How did you cut weight? And then I was thinking, like, how does Ian Bone cut weight? And then I found out it was all professional. He had like a dietitian and all that before it was cool. Well,
I I
yeah.
I learned to eat well, but where did you start? Where did you start martial arts, mate? No one wants to hear about boring Ian. Not yet. Anyway, we can talk about that later.
Oh, okay, okay, no worries. Well, I've started like with karate, like everybody else, I think. Well, like a lot of people actually. I started with karate when I was like super tiny. It was 1993, and
Oh
I was
wow.
a little kid. But yeah, I won a few comps back in the day in the karate. But then I started doing swimming after the karate, and I did swimming for a very long time. But whilst I was doing swimming, I was also doing wrestling and sambo. Well, judo and sambo. So we had a coach who was teaching both. So as soon as I started transitioning from fully from swimming to wrestling, and my coach left to Israel to live in Israel, so that kind of was a bit of a bummer. And then I started sticking to jiu-jitsu, or sorry, to judo and sambo. And my coach went to Israel as well. So I lost two of my coaches. So I stuck around with swimming and boxing. And then I transitioned into boxing. So I started doing boxing for quite a while when I was finishing school. And then I came to Australia, and when I came to Australia, I was trying to continue doing boxing and Muay Thai and whatever I could find, but I broke my hand quite badly. So the hand's been broken since my boxing days, and it never healed properly. So I had a surgery on my hand, and they said, well, to tell you the truth, the surgery went well, the bones fused, but every time you're going to punch awkwardly, you're going to break your hand. So I sort of weighed things in, and I already started being introduced to jiu-jitsu, and I'm like, I'm just going to stick to doing jiu-jitsu without punching. So yeah, and I started doing jiu-jitsu full time and teaching MMA.
That's
So
cool. So
yeah,
did you did you get a chance to compete in sambo as a young kid and judo?
only in judo. I competed in judo and I competed in Greco. Uh, but it's only kids comps, you know what I mean? But yeah, but I've been wrestling all along, so I wasn't really into in competing that much
And you
back then.
and how'd you break your hand?
An awkward punch, mate. An awkward punch, and I broke my scaphoid here.
Yep.
You see, I have a scar. It's it's a weird punch. Nothing too special. Just didn't curl it well, and bang! I felt like a little snap in my wrist, and I didn't even pay attention because normally when you think you're going to fracture something, it's going to be a lot more painful. But that wasn't even that painful. And then it was getting more painful over the years because I didn't get it treated for like 5 or 7 years. And then I realized, holy crap, there was quite a bit of damage. And when I did a proper X-ray, not a Russian X-ray, but I did it here in Australia, and they said, mate, you need a surgery, otherwise it's going to get worse and worse and worse. So it was
Yep.
untreated for a couple of years. That's why the it could never heal properly. I was not, I did not want to have any, pain in my wrist, even though I do have it, because it's been untreated for so long. Yeah, it was
We
an
we
awkward punch in boxing, mate,
were you
unfortunately.
fighting boxing at the time when that happened?
Yeah, I had a couple of amateur fights, but nothing too special. It's just like for Ukrainians, I came from the boxing city. Everybody used to box in my city. So,
Yep.
my three amateur fights were then nothing compared to some of the guys that have around me. They were like hundreds and hundreds of fights.
And who was the
So
driving force behind you training so much as a kid? Was that something that you
That is a
worked
very good
towards?
question. That is a very good question. What is the driving force? The driving force was my neighborhood and my city. If you don't know how to fight in my city, you're not going to come out of the house. Everyone was involved in some kind of martial arts, whether it was boxing, kickboxing, wrestling, sambo. Now it's MMA and jiu-jitsu, and I came from a city that is famous for its, for Greco-Roman and boxing. We
Yeah,
had a
wow,
lot of
that's awesome.
we like it's like in Australia when everybody knows how to throw a rugby ball, but from my city everybody knows how to throw a bloody 1-2 combo and shoot the
Yep.
legs. So it's a bit different. It's just a cultural thing, I suppose, and I really did enjoy it. It gave me like some sort of like a weird sense of confidence, and I loved it. I felt like I was literally improving was more like a spiritual path than anything with martial arts. Swimming, even though I was really good at it, didn't really give it to me. And I wish, but whatever martial arts gives you, not just in terms of your physical development, but it's a channel for your spiritual and mental development. That's
Yeah, there's
probably
something that feels
another
very
factor.
natural about play fighting with your friends. I definitely know that
100%.
once I found martial arts, like even like outside of competition, like I just love rocking up
Yeah.
to the gym and play fighting with my mates. Even if I don't feel very
100%.
competitive at the moment.
100%, 100%. Even if you sort of like don't compete, there's a part of martial arts that allows you to improve yourself, and that's what people are more addicted to that improvement, constant improvement feeling that you have whilst you're training martial arts. You can do certain things better, you see things better, you get sharper in one particular point. That sense of improvement is a big thing as to why I personally do martial arts.
Now, when you moved from the Ukraine, was it, to Australia?
Yes.
Do you
Yep.
find that martial arts helped you make friends and all those kind
Yeah.
of like
Definitely.
cultural adjustments as well?
100%, 100%. I when I moved, I started going to the University of Queensland, and I straight away joined the boxing club, and even though I didn't know my hand was broken at the time, I was just working out with the boys and had a lot of good friends. Some of my best friends came from boxing. Then when that thing happened with my hand, and I totally started doing jiu-jitsu and MMA. I also formed so many close friendships, and the closest people of mine now that definitely allowed me to get introduced to Australia better, to Australian society and people to get because there was literally when you go to a martial arts gym, there's no backgrounds. It's just everybody rocks up and they all become equal. So
Yeah, I freaking love that. Now you look pretty fancy dressed. I'm sitting here in the gym in my rashi, but you look like you're dressed up to go out on a date. Tell us about your second job. What's going on here?
yeah, yeah, I'm about to go on the date. This is my lunch break. I work in finance for a university. I received degrees when I go to Australia. I finished a double major degree in international business and international economics in University of Queensland. Then I did masters of marketing in University of Queensland as well. But now I work for Queensland University of Technology. So I work in finance. Even though I never studied in finance, somehow I ended up doing finance. That's
Man,
ridiculous,
that
though.
that's
But
amazing. Let's go down
yeah,
that rabbit hole for a second. Now, you've moved countries. You're an MMA coach and you work all day in finance. Is there any part of growing up doing martial arts that you feel helps you during your professional life as well?
100%, 100%. The lessons that I learned through martial arts, and this is very important for everybody to understand. The lessons that I learned through the martial arts, I apply in every single move I make in my everyday job or in my real life. It's just patience. One step at a time. Good timing and everything. Roll with it in the sense. There's so many concepts I picked up through jujitsu, wrestling, and MMA that I apply all over my day-to-day life. It's ridiculous, and the skill set I develop by teaching every day or dealing with people every day, because as a coach that it's not just martial arts we deal with when we work in the gym. There's so many more things that we have to deal with. It's 24/7 involvement, and I have acquired quite a few skills that I use in my everyday job. It's just part of it. It's just part of it. And that's part of the reason why I do it all the time now. Sometimes body's feeling sore, but you still do it because it's just the path that I've chose.
Now, you've been doing martial arts for a real long time, and how many days a week now do you train? Do you train every single day, even though you work a
Yeah,
full-time job?
I train every single day. I train every single day.
Now,
I
what would
have
be your advice?
two rests Tuesday. I rest on
Yep.
Tuesdays. I only do weights, so I do heavy lifting on Tuesday, which is deadlifts and back. That's my only rest day. I concentrate on teaching MMA that day.
Yeah, awesome. Now, what would be your advice to other people that might be working in finance that just think it's impossible to get into training every single day? How would you
My
encourage them to get to training?
Well, yes. That's a very good question. I don't know. You're hitting some good questions there. My advice to them is just allow yourself to develop. Come in with no expectations. Do not compare yourself, your path, and your steps to anyone else. Try to concentrate and focus on yourself. Otherwise, if you start comparing, going down that rabbit hole of comparing yourself to other people's progress, you actually might be missing out on some me time, or you are getting you are measuring against a person who has a totally different path from you. They've started early or whatever, a little bit more physically gifted, and for some reason you're missing out on concentrating what this martial art path can offer for you. So I think that's my main advice to anybody who's starting, saying focus on yourself, don't compare yourself to others, and just trust the process and trust the time. That's probably what I normally try to tell people.
Yeah, it is good because I mean, I suppose there's a little bit of a misconception that MMA gyms in particular are full of meatheads that just want to tear you apart. Now that might be true somewhere, but it's definitely not. It's definitely not
Oh,
my
definitely.
experience at all.
Definitely. Yeah, I totally
Um,
agree with you. I totally agree with you there. You normally surround yourself by real gentlemen and real good people when you turn up to an MMA gym. It has a really big a tendency of clearing people of the wrong ego and other issues they might have. It's a cleansing experience. Yeah. So when you're involved in martial arts, especially mixed martial arts.
Yeah, I like that. It's a cleansing experience. It is, like you have to kind of you have to commit to it to even reach a reasonable standard of um, proficiency, even if that's 2 days a week. I tell my students all the time, you have to turn up
Mm,
those 2 days a week, but without that consistency
100%.
and without that suffering, you're not going to get all the benefits
No,
anyway.
no,
You,
no.
you know.
Discipline and consistency. Very well said, Ian. And for some reason, we live in a society now where people expect the effect of it to be an immediate one. But unfortunately, this is not the case with martial arts. Martial arts, that's why I love it. It teaches you that step-by-step approach, um, uh, making sure that you develop some kind of self-discipline in order for the full effect to take place. And those people who understand that, they tend to succeed, or whatever the level they might be competing on. Could be Masters 5 white belt, or could be a professional MMA fighter who's aiming to get into UFC or ONE FC.
Yeah, awesome. Now, obviously, you've been a coach for a while now, and you seem super committed to developing people. And I've seen you've been traveling overseas and doing seminars back home in Ukraine as
Mhm.
well. What's the biggest difference between training in the Ukraine and training in Australia?
That's a good one. That's a very good question. That's a very good question, and some people might not like the answer that I'm going to give.
Yeah, go nuts.
Uh, um, I believe that people back home, when it comes to MMA and when it comes to fighting, are a lot more serious. When we back home, whether it's in Russia, Belarus, or Ukraine, when people train martial arts, the approach is that my life is on the line. The other guy is also good. we train regularly. For us, for most of us, fighting is something we don't take lightly. Here can be it can be like something you do on the side, like But back home, people, if they go into for a fight, they got to be ready. And in general sense that I'm getting is that people, and when I see people train every single day, there's no days off. There's literally no days off. It's sparring, and it's a discipline. It's a way of life, and you guys do it the same way as you do rugby or AFL, whatever. It's just a sport you do on the side. Where in Slavic societies, former Soviet Union, it could be Kazakhstan, Ukraine, Russia, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan. You see the Dagestan, Chechnya. You see the athletes that they're producing, and it's the way of life in there, and that's why people sometimes think that I'm crazy for demanding it from my students. But I always go back and I see what people do over there, and I'm like, holy shit, I was actually on the right path.
Yeah,
So
look, I think as soon as there's a concussion on the line, I definitely have standards that I set, and some people think I'm crazy. I One of the funniest things that I find people say sometimes is like,
no,
good
yeah,
on
yeah, yeah. I'm
good on
sorry to
people.
interrupt you. If there are injuries, definitely the whole thing
Yeah,
changes. If there's a concussion or there's a tear or is a fracture, obviously you got to take it easy. But I'm talking about like, training every single day. I'm talking about
no, I agree.
training
I
every, yeah,
agree
yeah,
completely. When I was fighting, I trained 6, 7 days. If I felt good on Sunday,
yeah.
I would train. If I didn't feel good on Sunday, I would do a 10K run. Like that was my
10K
rest.
run, like an active rest, right? Like an
Yeah,
active
yeah,
rest.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly
so
right. So
look, I don't understand it, and I demand the same from my team because really think if people want to reach that international level, they want to be part of a gym that sends people on an international standard. There has to be um, there has to be guidelines of the minimum standard of people to perform. Now,
yeah,
there's an interesting thing that people say in Australia at fight shows that I don't agree with. You'll be sitting next to someone, they go, "Oh, well, at least he gave it a go," and I'm like, "Bullshit!
totally.
No,
This is my pet hate. I totally agree with
if you
you.
train properly, then I'll
Yeah.
say at least he gave it everything. But if you didn't train properly for your fight, I don't think you're clever for jumping in. I think you're the
Mate,
opposite. I think you're a
yeah,
coward for not putting in the hard work.
exactly right. This is my pet hate when people say, "Oh, I just want to have a go." I'm like, this is not the sport where you just want to have a go. You want to have a go, go to time zone.
Yeah.
Compete and throw in those basketball. But mate, listen, when it comes to fighting, you cannot just have a go.
No,
Your
you got to
pride's
earn
on
it.
line. It's absolutely, absolutely. You got to earn it. And the thing is, though, you're putting your man card on the line as well. Everything that you stand for, it comes in the form of fighting, comes out in the form of fighting. You cannot just play it. You've got to
Yep.
put in the work and reap the benefit of improvement.
Yep.
That's why people are committed to, like, some people get addicted to fight camps, because fight camps, you concentrate on yourself. 8 to 10 weeks, you concentrating yourself, improving yourself. It's like a drug. You become a different human being, and that's a commitment. That's a commitment. You come out of it like, whoa, win or lose, win or lose, I have become a better fighter, better human, better father, coach, whatever. And
Yes.
then you go, I'm going for the next camp with making some adjustments, and I'm going to become even a better fighter. And all of a sudden, the results come in. If you're coming in with a fucked up attitude of like, oh, I'm just going to have a go, this is a give up attitude straight away. You're already giving yourself a non-commitment clause, saying, hey, if I fuck up, it's just because I just wanted to have a go. That's just not right. It's just not right, because your coach name's on the line, your name's on the line, and your time's on the line as well. So that's my thought on that. And when people say you want to have a go, I'm like, dude, you just really need to reconsider what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, and it's not fair to your coach too, who might be sitting there with you in hospital afterwards if you suffer a bad concussion.
Exactly right.
You know, it's not.
Yeah.
It's definitely interesting. But again, it's one of the things that I love about jiu-jitsu and grappling sports is that people can kind of like build their resistance over time. You know, you've got white belt comps, blue belt comps,
Yeah,
purple
that's
belt
right.
comps. So you don't have to jump in at the deep level. So that's one of the things that I love about jiu-jitsu
100%.
as
That
a
is
sport.
really good. That is really good. Yeah, jiu-jitsu in that sense is really good. It gives you a really good welcoming, and you still get to test yourself, still get to test your nerves and whatnot. So it's really cool like that. Jiu-jitsu is a great platform. Jiu-jitsu and grappling is a great platform, 100%.
Now, what's your favorite type of student that comes through the door?
A favorite type of student is a person who's ready to train every day. A person who's committed and shows a great uh, basically doesn't just attend physically often, but attends mentally as well. So a person comes in, shuts everything down, present physically and present in mind, and we can overcome any obstacle. You don't have to be have any physical prerequisites at all. All you have to have is just the right type of commitment, which is attending physically and mentally, like I said. That's my favorite type of person to work with because you can actually progress. But you come in and you come out from a rugby field straight away, the fittest guy, the biggest dude, but your head is full of shit. You're not gonna get anywhere. You're just gonna bully everybody with the athleticism. But when the time gets hard, you're gonna disappear. And you're not gonna be able to improve and get past your athleticism and just improve your technique as well. So the process requires your attendance, physically and mentally, like I said, and those are my favorite type of students, the ones who put in the time.
What do you think is the best way for people to get past their athleticism? What's the best type of training that you can suggest for people that are really trying to focus in on their skill development and not use so much strength all the time?
Hard for me. It's hard for me to really say what that would be, but some people come in and they're ready, They understand the intricacies of the fighting, and they understand it's not just brute force. It requires certain level of intelligence. So, in order to increase someone's intelligence levels, you need to um, gradually teach them concepts, not just even like techniques. You just need to teach them concepts. It's like flow with it, try use less resistance and or stuff like that. So it's a long process. You also need to tell them that, hey, listen, it's not going to come overnight. You're not going to be able to handle. You're not going to be able to grasp this overnight or over a week. It's going to take years, possibly decades. So that's probably it. Just gradually start educating people, because education is quite important when it comes to fighting.
Yeah, I mean, and there's so many instructionals and things out there now for people to start building games from. Do you
Oh
use
yeah, yeah, yeah.
instructionals? Do you have any hints and tips to how your students
Definitely.
can use instructionals?
Well, this is a good question. I mean, you don't need to be a genius to realize that instructionals are extremely helpful. I do them. I listen. I'm a second degree black belt. I've been a black belt for like 7 years. I've been doing this for a very long time, but I still get a lot of benefit from the instructionals. Take or watch fights, analyze fights, use your own head to and use your own brain to watch the fight and analyze what's happening, footwork, body work, distances, timing, and everything. Sit down and educate yourself. A lot of people just watch fights, but they're not really watching for things. They're not studying the fights. Watching just to know who wins is not good. You need to watch, analyze how people fight frames, what they do with the post, how they approach the cage takedown, and stuff like that. You need to understand that. So instead of just observing, you really need to put your mind into it, and educate yourself.
Yeah, that's a really good tip. It's definitely something that I like to do, especially if it's a particular style versus style matchup. I kind of like to watch those a little bit and and see how people deal with different types of fighters. Now,
Yes, exactly.
let's get a little bit more personal. What's your favorite thing about training in martial arts that you get from it personally?
What's my favorite thing about
Yeah,
training in martial arts?
why do you think you train in martial arts, and why do you think you'll train forever, and if so, why?
Okay, well, I hope I'll train forever for however long my body permits, because it comes with injuries and stuff like that, as you probably would know. There's a lot of injuries associated with what we do, and I've had my fair share of injuries. So hopefully that I'll probably become less physical. I'm already becoming a little less physical, a little bit smarter about how I train. Um, what's my favorite thing? Listen, for me, training is like an active type of meditation. When I train, I try to switch everything off. I don't think about my what I'm gonna do at work tomorrow, what I'm gonna do when I get home, and I try to get myself into training and block everything out, which becomes, like I said, a particular form of meditation. It's an interesting form of meditation. I'm not just sitting there counting my breaths. What I'm doing is that I'm allowing myself to take myself out of the entire world and just concentrate on me. Even though I'm training with other teams, with other people, I am concentrating on me and my needs and my spiritual needs at the moment. Um, and that is why, besides having a physical effect of having a good workout, I have a mental effect of not thinking about all this shit outside of the gym. And it becomes like a cleansing experience in a way.
Yeah, look, and I think
That's
it's really
why I love
important
it.
for anybody looking to maintain a healthy relationship with their training partners and coaches. Is like you got to leave your shit at the front door. Leave it at the front door. Concentrate on training,
100%.
and then like if you do have problems and need support from your teammates, you should be organizing a coffee or a private chat after class, because the training space should be like almost like a sacred space where it's like, okay, now it's time to train. We shouldn't
100%.
be
And don't be scared of
gossiping or
saying
talking
that
about other
word
people.
sacred.
Yeah.
100%. I totally agree with you. I don't really agree with you. I don't disagree with you at all. And I really like what you just said, the word sacred. People are a bit scared of throwing this word around, but it is because you are meditating in it. I'm meditating in it. It's like in a way, my temple. But it is a sacred space for me. I don't tolerate certain type of bullshit in there. So I do tend to. I 100% agree with you.
Yeah, it's real super important. Now, just
I lost you. I can't hear you.
we're
Yeah.
back. I'm back. That's all right. We might finish up today
Hello, hello.
there, Paul.
No, can't hear you, mate.
We'll just finish up there.
You want
Thanks
to
for joining us,
restart?
Paul. And what we'll do is we'll have this again sometime. But I really appreciate you coming down and having a chat
I can't
with
hear
me, mate.
you, brother.